everyone. This is just like a fun passion project. I thought it would be fun to talk with some friends, to have some conversations here and there. It might be light, it might be heavy. Who knows where this will go? For those of you who don't know, my name is Adriana and I will be the host. And joining me for my first ever podcast, we have Chloe.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. I'm so glad that one of my best friends could be one of my first guests on my podcast. So New Year's is coming soon. So I thought that for my first ever podcast, it would be fun to talk about New Year's. To kick things off, I wanted to start with something lighthearted. Tell me maybe about your New Year's traditions. Like, what do you do normally during New Year's?
I don't really have traditions, if I'm being really honest. Like, most of the time, I'll just be my family. Like, my mom, my dad, my sister, if she's in town, my brother, if he's in town. But usually, we'll just, like, watch the fireworks or, I don't really have traditions. Sometimes I'll, like, sleep in early and then I'll miss the fireworks, but I try my best to be with my family.
Chloe sleeping early. That's not something I hear often. Normally, I know Chloe's up until 3 a.m. doing homework. So Chloe sleeping early. Wow, that's great. For me personally, I know some people on New Year's, they go partying with friends to do the countdown. A lot of people go out to see fireworks. Personally, my New Year's tradition with my family in prior years was that we would go to KLCC or drive around at night maybe just to like watch the fireworks. And that's pretty much it. But I'm sure there's other people who have like more exciting traditions, like, oh, they go partying, you kiss someone on New Year's. There's a lot.
I don't know if you've seen this out, but like there's this Twitter meme. I think it circulated like 2 years ago, a year ago, where like they would watch like Avengers, the first one. Not the first one, Infinity War. And when like Thanos snaps dia punya fingers, and then like that's when the New Year countdown would like ring off to like signify, oh, dah habis. Yeah, so I found that really cool, and I've always wanted to do that, but like you have to know like the specific time, and like I'm too lazy for that. But it's funny. It's so funny.
I admire people. I know that trend. I've seen people do it with like the Thanos snap and like with the B movie monologue. There's like so many memes, but I could never I don't think I would ever be able to time that correctly. Like I'm sure I would miss it by a few seconds and be like, dang, that sucks. Next thing I wanted to talk about was, well, this year kind of sucked. Like, let's be honest. 2020 was something else. It was, no one expected it. I remember last year, around this time, people were so excited for 2020. A lot of people were going through the motions of like, oh, it's the last decade. It's a new decade. And people were talking about how 2020 is going to be awesome. It's kind of like a fresh new start. People were excited and hyped out about it. Plus 2020 is kind of like a cool number to start with. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly, just like a month in, it was like, oh, there's a virus and it's killing so many people. And everyone was like, are we serious? What were your expectations or like your mindset back when it was about to become 2020, and then when the virus came about? How was that for you?
I mean, like, continuing from what you said earlier about everyone being really excited for 2020. I mean, like, 2020 itself, because I went to the library a few weeks prior, before trials, before everything kind of blew up. So I came across this book, and it kind of explained why, like, our previous prime minister, he chose wawasan 2020, like why, you know? And 2020 literally means perfect vision. So I think I speak for everyone when I say that I think we all thought that 2020 would be, you know, a good year, a big year, a year of prosperity, economically, socially. For me personally, I also had like really high hopes for 2020. I went in 2020 thinking, I knew I was going to be stressed, but I didn't know to what extent. And it was like a whole other different type of stress. For me, I thought I would be really stressed out because I had to balance out my academics and like curricular activities. That was macam I had like I mentally prepared myself for that. But like going into 2020, oh my god, like even January was insane, and like I feel like March onwards everything just kind of like it was a whole whirlpool of emotions. And honestly, even though 2020 is ending very soon, I'm still like processing what everything that's happened this year. It's really insane. And I think everyone is also macam, you know, I don't know, because usually this time of year, everyone's like, oh my god, 2020, I mean, oh my god, it's a new year, blah, blah, blah. But now everyone's kind of just like, yeah, man, 2020, ending soon. Everyone's kind of, I wouldn't say everyone's demotivated. I think everyone's just really tired. And yeah, I think, 2020, man.
For me personally, going into 2020, I try to keep my expectations low because personally, I think that's another thing to talk about. Like, how do you feel when a new year rolls around in general? Because for me, when a new year rolls around, I know for some people it's excitement, but for me, I genuinely, honestly get a little sad when a new year rolls around because I'm just scared of what the new year will bring. Trust me, part of me does try to stay optimistic. I do try to be like, oh, a new fresh start, new adventures, new friends, new experiences. And that's all great. But at the same time, it is scary kind of going into a new year. For me, I guess, going into a new year, leaving stuff behind. And, generally, like you go through stuff throughout the year. Looking back on everything that's ever happened to you, it's a weird feeling for me, especially because honestly, to admit, I'm a very nostalgic person. So going into a new year feels very off to me. But I was excited for 2020 because I thought we were going to have an amazing school year. I mean, I was scared for SPM. I was scared for SPM, but I was looking forward to things like our International Understanding Day for our Interact Club. I was looking forward to our sports day. I was looking forward to prom. Like, even though I don't know for sure if I was going to go, the spectacle of it was something to look forward to. And just in general, I looked forward to so many things in 2020 and wanting to make the most out of it because it was our last year. But then everything went out the window. It's so crazy how much COVID-19 changed everything. So many things were canceled, and that's just like a school level. Other than school, COVID-19 did a lot to our economy, to a lot of people's businesses. It really did change us, but not in the way we were hoping, which is, wow. What trends did you get into when COVID or quarantine came around? Because there's a lot of things that people did in quarantine. There was how everyone adopted cooking and baking. A lot of people got into TikTok. TikTok really skyrocketed during quarantine. And other things. There's a lot of things people did to cope. Did you get into any of those trends?
I did. I was like crazy over dalgona. Like me and my sister, we would like spend so much time in the kitchen just like whipping up dalgona sampai tangan mo. But like we so we were into dalgona.
Multitasking, okay? It's an exercise and a snack. a drink. That's multitasking. See, productivity. You think you weren't productive, but you were.
Honestly, 2020 was wild. Like look, I feel like it's kind of like a fever dream. Like if I were to wake up, like suddenly I'm transported. Yeah, like suddenly I'm transported back to February. I'd be like, huh? Because it's so different. Like I don't know. Like I think the person I was going into 2020 and the person who is leaving 2020 are two completely different people. And it's wild lah. Like I'm trying to like recall all of like the Twitter memes, but like suddenly it's like I'm like blank. But
No,
okay, what's your favorite 2020 meme? I'll think of mine.
okay. No, I love Gen Z. I love it so much because a few things. So if you want to talk about memes, a few things. I love how we are the only generation who looked at all the tragedy around us and thought, you know how we're gonna cope with it? We're gonna make memes out of it, because that's what we do. We make memes out of our sorrows. For example, whole World War III issue in just January. Everyone was just like, oh, World War III, let's make memes. It was funny. It was a good way to cope rather than just be worried. I think it's good to have a balance. Don't completely not take it seriously, but I think if that's how you cope with it, just have the balance between taking it seriously and also in general what you can do to cope with it. And I think if it's making jokes and if it's not racist or any of those kind of jokes, I think it's fine. I think it was very funny to see how people, I remember there were these memes circling around how January, nearly World War III, February, coronavirus, what happened in March? You see, you can't even recall all of them. So much happened. Basically the meme went on to like talk about all the crazy things that happened throughout the year. Like every month something happened. And I remember laughing at the meme because the latest box would always be, what's next? An alien invasion? Is that where this is going? And another thing I think is hilarious is that, I don't know how true it is, but I think it's real. Gen Z, a bunch of people on TikTok made Ratatouille the musical, a TikTok musical.
Oh,
Like,
I think I missed that.
I will put the TikTok here. Yeah, Gen Z made TikTok, Ratatouille, TikTok the musical. They were that bored in quarantine. What other generation would do that? Yeah, I think those are the top memes that come to my mind. But it's been a funny year. Things are so bad. It's hard to take it seriously.
I think that it's both overwhelming and underwhelming at the same time. But I also think that because we're not used to so many things happening at once, our bodies are like
Numb.
trying their best lah to macam cope. At least for me lah, like macam either I'm really anxious, I'm like sitting in front of the TV, like seeing some like sidang media pendidikan or like urusan khas, or I'm just like napping and like, you know what, I don't care, I'll just take a nap. Like, so it's weird lah. Like, I don't know, man. 2020, I don't even have like an adjective to describe how 2020 has been.
That's another meme in itself. I've seen many people on TikTok just like, oh, it's okay, yay, 1 week off of school, an extra week off of school, a holiday. People were happy about it initially. People were just like, yes, a holiday, it's awesome. And then it just never ended. It just never ended and it got sad. And honestly, how do you feel about going into 2021? Because I'm scared. Like, I know I said earlier I was scared for 2020 because, like, in general, I'm scared of New Year's. But now, this year, I'm even more scared of what 2021 will bring. Like, have you heard the news about, okay, by the way, audience, for whatever COVID-19 information, please look up from a valid source. But yeah, have you guys seen the news that COVID-19 has gotten way worse? How in some countries it has mutated. I think it's scarier that the symptoms going into 2021 are worse. Because if you've seen posts, there are people in the UK who've woken up blind, and that is horrifying.
If I'm not mistaken, I saw that on Twitter tadi, like a few hours ago, apparently the whole of Selangor is already like a red zone. like the whole of Selangor, which is insane. I might be wrong. I think so. I can check right now. But it was either Selangor or KL, but I'm pretty sure it's Selangor. Like, that's insane. We've had CMCO for 2.5 months, and numbers are not decreasing. It's still at 1K plus every single day, which is really worrying. So, yeah.
I think we've actually reached 2K, recently. If you see the recent stats, we've gotten 2,000 cases per day now. I find it funny, the people who do expect it to be gone. Some people are just like, whoa, I can't wait for 2020 to be over. It's as if COVID has an expiry date. By the time it's 2021, it's gone, right? No, that's not how it works. It's gonna be here for a while. It's probably gonna be here for a few more years.
Even if, I'll just say it in Malaysia, even if we do hit 0 cases for let's say a few weeks, the effects of COVID will still prolong just because the virus goes away, and even that is debatable. But okay, let's say the virus does go away, the effects will still stay on. The effects it has on the economy, on on social activities, and I don't know. I think I kind of get why people want it to be over, because you tend to hope for the very, very best in very dire situations, which can lead to different possibilities. The first of which are people being foolish. So they go out, they don't wear their masks, they do whatever they're not supposed to do, or they try their best. I don't know. It really depends, because I do get what you're saying. I think there's this line between hoping for the very best and also being a bit too optimistic to the point of being foolish and being careless. So I just hope that we don't fall under the latter, because I think another misconception is that, okay, if you dapat COVID, you go to hospital, you get treated, you're fine. But no, because the side effects are still, scientists are still figuring out what are the side effects. Some can't, some yang tak ada respiratory problems dapat, or people who already have problems, it worsens.
So everyone, I hope you guys stay safe, practice the standard of procedures, and practice good hygiene. Now, going back into the topic of New Year's. So, what do you hope for 2021?
How do I hope? I think I just hope for a lot of healing for a lot of people. I know that 2020 hasn't been the best year for a lot of people. It's also, I think, the worst year I've seen. Personally, I just hope that everyone kind of heals from whatever they've experienced in 2020. I hope they take the lessons and experiences. And for me, I just hope I guess I get to move on from whatever that has happened in 2020. A few things have happened. I hope I get to move on from those things and hopefully just begin anew, as they say, turn over a new leaf and kind of expand. I hope I gracefully grow into a better person, and just learning things. I think that's all. I think it's the same every year, just kind of growing out of the person I used to be and try to experience new things, meet new people, go out of my comfort zone. Yeah, but I think the main theme is just healing. Yeah, definitely just healing. What are your, what are your hopes for 2021?
All right, so I think for me, for 2021 in general, the news about the virus mutating really scared me. And in general, like I said, I get scared when New Year's rolls around. I don't feel great around New Year's. So going to 2021, I don't have the highest hopes because everything is still uncertain. We don't know if things are getting better. A positive is that people are talking about the new vaccine progress. So that's good and something to keep in mind. But I think in general, a lot of things are uncertain. I don't even know if we will actually do our SPM as scheduled, rescheduled actually for the second or third time. I don't know if we'll actually do it this by then. It might be pushed back even more because the cases didn't get better. But I think for 2021, I just hope to feel better, hopefully. Like, I hope by 2021, it's considered a fresh start. Like, New Year's are always a chance to start fresh, as they say. So I hope I can go into the new year without feeling all the negative emotions I did of this year. Like, a lot of people, I think, lost motivation in 2020. A lot of people's mental health went down the drain. Quarantine didn't help. The news of COVID, of people losing their jobs, everything is a perfect reason to feel down. But I think it's important for us to, we do need to acknowledge all these things, but it's also important to try our best to find the positives. And I think it's also important to check up on people. That's something that I realized what was really important this year. I mean, generally, I think I talked to a lot of people and I tried to like connect with people and catch up with many. But I feel like especially this year, it was important. It was important to reach out to people because you don't know what they're going through at home. It was important to check up on your friends, their mental health state, and to maybe if you see them not doing that well, trying to cheer them up. You don't know how much of a help that is. Because for me, 2020 was so bad in terms of like, it really got my mental health down. I think there was a lot of overthinking, a lot of sadness. And I think especially when you lose loved ones during COVID-19, grieving is another thing. But I had quite a number of friends who contacted me and who I connected with and contacted during quarantine periods. And honestly, I can say that those things kept me going. My friends,
For sure.
moments with my siblings, all that is what kept me going, kept my spirits high even throughout these hard times. And I think that's great. On one hand, it's very sad what COVID-19 has done, but I'm glad to a certain extent it has brought humanity or some communities closer together, and that's great. So moving into 2021, I just hope for everyone that things get better. I hope it doesn't extend to 2022. I hope 2021, at least midway, things get better, the cases go down, and I hope that people are able to overcome what they've been through. I hope businesses might be able to recover, hopefully. I hope people who've been through some pretty bad things are able to heal. That's all I think I hope for 2021. Oh, to all the viewers watching, please pray for my SPM. I'm terrified of that. Please pray. Please pray. Pray for me. Thank you. And all of batch 03. I don't think people realize how much of a pain it was to study online.
I think it's really sad for the seniors or like the Form 5s, because we were kind of like, bro, like I think all of us or most of us finished our Hujan Satu before things kind of just like, I don't know, because I do have like friends. Okay, because I mean, speaking for our school, we are privileged enough to have online classes, but I've heard from some of my friends who like apparently they either don't have online classes or it was very like on and off.
Yeah, that's another issue. I personally, it's a pet peeve of mine when teachers actually like say, oh, batch 03, you guys should get the best results because you're doing SPM so late. It was postponed so many times. Personally, for me, that's such a pet peeve because I don't understand how you can think after studying IRL, studying face-to-face has been the norm for so long. I can't comprehend how you think studying online after doing that is easier. And I can't comprehend how you think that students are just fine, because one, studying online is difficult. And another thing is that everyone's mental health isn't doing that great. I don't think mental health while studying gets enough attention. I think that people don't realize how hard it is to study and be motivated and productive when all you can think about is the fear of what's happening around you. All you can think about is how your family is going to gain money, how you are going to progress, or if you're going to even be okay, if you can even cope, if your classes are even that effective. I think people need to understand, I think teachers and the education ministry or system needs to understand that this year has been hard on many students, and they shouldn't expect all of them or even have the bar so high for them to perform. Because in general, studying online is difficult. And that's even for people like us who are privileged to have our devices, our internet connection. I can imagine for people in other states or in our own state that aren't as fortunate. Mental health and studies has been a real struggle this year. More people need to be empathetic towards that.
And I have thought about this like a few times. And I think the reason why teachers or certain parties think that online learning is easier or that we should excel more in online learning, I think it's because they think we're used to that online virtual world. But what they fail to realize is that the online / virtual world has always been more of macam if you nak masuk, you masuk. It has never been you have to, join this virtual blah, 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 blah. But now because we're all cooped up in our rooms and the education sector has kind of merged into the virtual world, they fail to realize that we don't have that infrastructure yet. We really don't. Like, okay, we have Google Classroom, we have Google Meet, we have all these really cool apps that, assist teachers and help students. That's fine, but it is still not the same, or it is still not on par with the infrastructure that has already been built for like decades in classrooms. It's not there yet. And people forget that it's not there yet. And I mean, going back to the fact that I think 40% of students in Malaysia, I'm pretty sure that's correct. 40% of students in Malaysia do not have access to the internet, either the internet or like a device. That's a lot. 40% is a lot. And I agree with what you said, with it being very unfair for certain parties to expect the very, very best from students. Because, okay, to put it in a simple analogy, you can't expect a baker to make a cake if you don't give them the ingredients, or like an oven or like a fridge. Regardless of how good the baker is, it doesn't matter if the baker is like a Michelin chef or whatever, but if you don't give them the proper ingredients or the support, there will still be no cake. I think that's the easiest way I can put it. It doesn't matter how good the student is, if the student doesn't have or doesn't receive enough support or the right tools to excel, it will be very hard for them to excel. This has been talked about, and there are certain organizations that are doing their very best to help these students. I think Hunger Hurts, if I'm not mistaken, I think they do have their collecting funds, I think, to give laptops to certain students. So that's good. That is really good that there are organizations or there are certain people who kind of want to help. But again, 40% is a lot. And we shouldn't bat our eyes, or we shouldn't turn a blind eye on the fact that 40% do not have access. So what's going to happen to this 40%? That's just my opinion on it. I think the education sector, or like people involved in the education sector, I mean, continuing from what you said about people not really realizing that students have it hard because they have this, mindset that, oh, okay, since it's online, it should be easier. But I think people fail to realize, or they forget, that students aren't just students. We're also, daughters, sons, we're siblings, we have other responsibilities that need our attention as well. And I think most importantly, we're human. We're living in a pandemic where things are so uncertain. Like you said, Daddy, we don't know whether our parents are okay, the financial status of our families, and then our relationships with our friends. So I think it's very important to kind of remember that we're human as well. We don't wake up every single day and study. The moment we wake up, sampai like we sleep, we have to do chores, and there are so many factors that go into it. So I think I completely agree with what you said. I think people fail to realize that we're human as well. We're not, robots who are designed to sit in front of our laptops and for hours, So, yeah.
To talk about what you said earlier, how you said people don't realize, or some people don't realize, that students aren't just students. They are all these other things, like you mentioned. I think in general, yeah, people don't realize that. And I think that's because our society in general has come to be like, you have to be busy, you have to be productive.
Capitalism, guys.
We blame capitalism because if you're not productive, you can't have a successful future. You don't have a successful future, you won't get money. Without money, you can't live. And the reason for that is because everything's been made expensive. It's all capitalism. It's terrible. But yeah, that's the way our society, or our world right now in this decade, has been structured. And I think that's why it's also really bad for how we've handled COVID, or how what we've gone through. Because when you're in a world, or in our generation, where you prioritize being busy, having to work hard, and productivity on the constant just to make a living, or to be able to live, that's why once COVID-19 hit us and a lot of people lost their jobs, it was very hard for people to cope, because we're so used to being able to do a lot of things and be busy. And now I think a number of things have happened. One, we aren't able to do things like we used to, thus that is already an issue. But two, I think what's difficult is that the expectation or the need to be productive still exists, although our circumstances are now different. It's very hard to put on people the expectation or the requirement to constantly be productive. Yet now, in this scenario where we are in a pandemic, it's very hard to put that on someone, and it's very hard to actually live up to the requirements, because you see a lot of people actually beat themselves up. I think I beat myself up. I think other people beat themselves up for not being productive. But the thing is, we are in a pandemic. No other generation currently has ever seen that or had to be productive in a pandemic. Thus, it's cliche, but I think it's a really important message that it's okay if you were not as productive as you were before the pandemic hit. It's perfectly understandable. And it's okay if you are not coping with it as well as other people are, because everyone reacts to things differently. Everyone has different ways of coping and different circumstances. So you can't also compare how you have reacted or how you have coped with COVID with how other people have. Honestly, if you are just trying your best, I would be proud of you and for other people.
Exactly.
That's all we can ask for.
Mm-hmm. I think, going back to, our topic of New Year's and things, I think one very valuable lesson I've learned this year, a lot of things, I think the definition of productive has changed for me, because I'm very, how would I put it?
You are an amazingly productive person.
I think for me, I don't really like not doing anything. don't get me wrong, I love laying in bed and like taking a nap and just like sleeping for like
That's the hustle
hours.
culture talking.
But like I also don't like to kind of just sit and like watch people do things and kind of so I try to kind of be on my feet, and I try to do work. I mean, I had work. I'm still doing work now, but like I think what this pandemic has shown me is that productive is very subjective. I think we tend to see productivity as like, okay, I work for something and there has to be an output, or I have to work like 8 hours a day, or maybe productive is like staying up to like 3 a.m. and stuff like that, which I think it's fair to say that it is unhealthy to do that, because humans are not designed to kind of sit somewhere and like stare at our computer screens for like 3 hours or work half a day. We're supposed to kind of go out and play and do sports and exercise our bodies and
Life.
make art, paint, read poetry, write poetry, have fun with our family and friends, watch movies. Like, we're supposed to live that holistic lifestyle. But like you said earlier, because we live in a capitalistic society, or I wouldn't even say society, I think because we live in a capitalistic world, it has been kind of ingrained in our heads that we have to produce an output in order to kind of in order to be accepted into society, or to kind of have this, for people to like us or respect us, or to have that to macam, how to say like the Malay version would be macam tak jadi sampah masyarakat lah, like macam orang yang
productive.
Yeah, orang yang macam ada buat benda lah. I'm trying to say is productivity isn't 1 + 1 = 2. It's very subjective, and I think as long as you are trying your very best to cope with the pandemic, it really doesn't matter what your output is. As long as you're trying your best, as long as you're coping, that's really good enough. I think how productivity has changed for me is that, okay, I think for a lot of people, we tend to have these like expectations of ourselves. Like, okay, by today I have to finish like 3 sets of papers, and then I'll call it a day. And then if I finish it, baru I will call my day as productive. But I think for me, what has changed is that instead of kind of putting myself down or kind of being hard on myself for not accomplishing certain goals by the end of the day, I kind of sit down and I think, okay, what are my current circumstances right now? Why am I feeling demotivated? Why am I feeling this? And then I forgive myself that, okay, you are going through a pandemic, you're not feeling that great. It's okay to not produce a certain output at the end of the day. I've learned to not define myself or put my worth on what I work on, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think that is the most valuable thing I've learned this year.
And I think that's also good advice for anybody watching. I think that you have to be forgiving towards yourself and not be so hard on yourself or hold yourself up to such high standards, because although, again, we've said it many times, we're in a pandemic, so it's all right to just not be as productive at times, and it's okay to take it easy sometimes. All at your own pace. Everyone moves at their own pace. I really enjoyed talking about all these things with you. I think that to a certain extent, when people share their struggles or people share how they've felt throughout the year, how they felt throughout COVID, I think it does bring a bit of relief. I hope for you and for anyone watching that if you've ever not been okay throughout this time period, I hope you have been talking to people and not keeping it bottled up, because there is a certain relief to actually talking about how you feel.
It's also important to remember that whatever you're going through, as much as, you know, there are times where you really feel alone and you feel like, I don't think anyone understands me. I don't think um, anyone will really listen to me. I think what I will say is that you are never alone in anything and everything. Help is often literally a call away. You can call your friends or your family. There are so many like online support groups where you can be anonymous and you can kind of, you know, let your feelings out, because as you said earlier, it's not good to kind of bottle your feelings, because yeah, it's good to kind of just let it out in whatever way. And some people even find comfort in certain hobbies, like, you know, painting,
Hey,
or
I
like,
printed all these CDs during quarantine.
yeah, see, living proof. Yeah, macam for me, what I do to kind of like calm myself down is I write like poetry or like whatever, like I'll write in my journal. So that helps for me. So I think just find your own safe haven and just, you know, yeah, just find your safe haven and just release whatever you feel. Yeah.
And I want to add, not to invalidate anybody's struggles, because I don't want to say, oh, what you're going through, everyone's going through it. Because to a certain extent, we all go through different things and we all feel differently about them. So I in no way want to invalidate what everyone's going through. But I would like to put out there that there will be people there for you. And although I can't promise you, you never know when someone else might share what you feel and someone might relate to you. I'm not saying that what you're going through is what everyone goes through or invalidating your experience. I'm saying that you never know. I really just hope the best for everybody, honestly. I still feel bad for all the students, all the businesses, just all the just everyone. It's really
Everyone.
unfortunate. This is a really sad thing to happen. Do you have any final words or final messages to like anyone watching?
This is one tweet that's in my head. I'm sorry, I keep on referencing Twitter. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
But there's this one tweet that kind of stays in my head whenever I'm like going through something. Stay safe, stay sane, stay sexy. Like I wish that tweet was like awal tahun or like awal quarantine, because it's like my new like live motto, you know, like
Like the more ironically funny version of live, laugh, love. That's like, no, forget live, laugh, love. It's stay safe, stay sane, stay sexy.
yeah.
If I had a message to everyone who happens to be watching this, if people aside my close friends are watching, and to my close friends watching, I would like to say that this year has been bad. It's cliche, but the fact that you made it this far, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of everyone who's made it this far. Whatever you've been through, it's all valid, and it's okay that for all the times you weren't okay, give yourself the a break, but pat yourself on the back for the fact that you made it this far and that you are at least trying to move forward or trying to do whatever you can to cope, to survive, to live. I think that this year it was very hard to do a lot of things. So whatever you were able to do, no matter the size or like how big or small, whatever you were able to do this year, I'm proud of you for doing it. I'm proud of you for trying. I'm proud of you for whatever growth you've had. I'm proud of you for overcoming whatever you overcome. And I'm proud of you for trying to overcome whatever you are going through. To everyone watching, I hope from the bottom of my heart that 2021 isn't as bad as this year, although it looks like it will be worse. I hope that it won't be as bad on you, and I hope that you're able to heal from what 2020 has done to you, and hope that you're able to have a better life in 2021 and onwards. thank you for joining. Thank you so much for joining, Chloe, for sharing your thoughts on everything. Bye, guys. Thank you for watching. That's all from us. Hey there! So, if you're watching this part of the video, then I assume you watched the whole podcast or you skipped through a bunch of it. I don't know, but honestly, either way, I'm really grateful. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. So as mentioned a bunch of times, 2020 has been a ridiculous year, honestly, and sometimes it can be very overwhelming. So as I said in the video, sometimes talking to people about what overwhelms you brings relief. But just in case you don't feel comfortable talking to people in your life, I have a bunch of support lines, hotlines here that might be of help, even if you don't use them. I hope they bring you some benefit. If you're still here for some reason, one, thank you. And two, so basically, if you're still here watching, I wanted to share with you guys something sweet I heard on TikTok before the New Year's. So I hope it's heartwarming to you guys as it was for me and not cringy, I hope, but let's try. Basically, I can't promise you that tomorrow or next year is going to be much better than this year. This year was awful. But the only way to find out if next year is better is to go on and experience it. And if it is better, you deserve to experience those better days. So, see you next year.